Hey everyone, welcome back to another Simi Sarah video. Today we have a recreation speed build, and this one is a little extra special to me. I decided to recreate my childhood home. I grew up in this house, and my parents lived there for, I think, over 26 years. So it was a very long time. They bought this old Victorian house before they had any kids, and then there ended up being six of us, and we used all the space that there was available in this house for our growing family. In fact, my parents actually do have an addition, which is right here. You can see that extra rectangle on the back there. That is something my parents added on to create a bigger kitchen because the kitchen was a very small space. So yeah, basically, I took the pictures that my mom sent to me of my childhood home and recreated the exterior of the house. I did not recreate the interior of it. If you have played The Sims, you know that the ratio is just not the same, and so it's impossible to replicate both the exterior and the interior, since things are to scale differently in The Sims than obviously in real life. So this home is actually still in the town that I live in. Somebody else owns it now, as my parents have sold it. Now that all of us kids are out of the house, there was no need for all this extra space. Um, Unfortunately, the house just does not look the same with the new owners. This house was filled with eight of us, like two parents, six kids, and it took all of our hands to keep this place looking really nice and fresh. And so the new owner is just a single woman, and so there is not as much help, and you can kind of see that it's not as, I don't know. My parents really kept the yard and everything looking really nice. So I kind of wanted to recreate it the way that I saw it as a child, and using The Sims, since I really like building the houses. I will say that some things are a little different on the outside as well. You can only do so much copying in The Sims to before you have to kind of decide like what's actually playable and usable. So usually we actually have a side entrance that will goes to the outside near the garage. So there's like a side entrance and a front entrance. With this build, I decide not to have that side entrance because the foundation is really there. And in The Sims, you really can't kind of do that in the middle of a foundation. So I made it work, and I think without the side entrance, it's totally fine because I didn't copy the interior like I mentioned. So this home is a old Victorian home, and I know it was built in the early 1900s. I think it's from, I think 1920, maybe a little earlier than that. So this house is over 100 years old. And my family, yeah, so like I said, my family, we all grew up there, and my parents just recently sold it, I think 2 years ago. And yeah, I just wanted to take the time to recreate it. I don't know why I was struggling so hard with this roof. First, it finally clicks for me, and I realize I can just use the regular old metal roof. So I do end up coming back and fixing it again, just so you're aware. I am actually gonna upload a picture of our real house and put it in. Maybe I'll put it in the screenshot so you can see what I replicated, and you'll have to let me know how I did. Kind of give me a rating out of 10 or something. Like 10 is like exactly replicated, or 0 being not anywhere close. I missed my mark. So you'll have to tell me what you think. And yeah, as I'm building here, I was going to share like some childhood stories that kind of come along with this house. But when I'm in the middle of building, I realize that the lot is not big enough for what our whole home had. So we had a garage an old garage on the side, a giant backyard. So I actually end up taking and moving this house to a bigger lot. I kept it in the base game city, in the basically the old Victorian houses, because I thought that's perfect. It matches really well with things. And this is right here is where I realized this is not a big enough lot for what I was planning on doing and how big of like our backyard was. We had like a full not quite a full acre, but like 3/4 of an acre, and we were in the city of our town. So it was a big backyard for like our town. So yeah. We had these giant old oak trees in the front and in the back that kind of just overhang our property. It created a lot of shade. It created a lot of leaves, which we had the pleasure of raking all the time in the fall, because we live in Wisconsin. So our falls are absolutely stunning, but along with that stunningness comes extra work with all the leaves. We did end up having to cut down our one tree that we had in the front because it had been struck by lightning so many times, because it was so tall, and that it was dangerous, that it could potentially like fall on our house and on our roof. And so my parents ended up cutting it down. That was the tree that I would get my kite stuck in a lot of times. But right there, I just made the garage, and I do come back and I fix it because I do not like that door. Obviously, we don't have garage doors because we don't have cars in The Sims 4. Holding out hope on that. I do end up kind of leaving it as a skill building shed. So, you can throw in anything in there, work out things, whatever you're thinking for your sim and what works. I want to tell this story, and I will once we get back to the garage about it. But anyways, on our front porch, we used to have a hammock, and it would hang from the ceiling. And I remember my siblings and we would go out there and we would push each other till they would get sick, or we'd curl up inside of it in the fall when it was a little cold out and just kind of sit out on our front porch and enjoy the fresh air and get out of my mom's hair. And yeah, it was just a really like special spot on our front porch, and to just kind of spend some time in the fresh air. So that's our front porch thing. This house, if you have the game pack, why am I blanking on it? Vintage one, where you have the butler. I created an actual butler suite in this house because old Victorian homes, I actually create this very like realistically in what our house, now it's not, doesn't match our house, but it does have a combination of what our house had and what our neighbor's old Victorian house had, with like a, I don't remember what it's called, like an alleyway kitchen. So I do end up like copying that. And in our old neighbor's house, they actually had a servant's room up in the attic. I did not put the servant's room up in the attic. I actually put it on the first floor in this house, very close to the kitchen, and it's kind of tucked away in the corner, nice and small and things like that. So if you have the butler expansion pack, this house is awesome for that. Absolutely awesome. This bedroom with the butler suite ends up being about 5 bedrooms, and let's see, 3 full bathrooms and a half bath downstairs for guests, or if you're down there. The landscape is kind of close to the original. Definitely a lot more plants and variety in the front than what we had, mostly because my parents tried to keep it as simple as possible so that the maintenance would be a lot easier. So we had mostly hostas in all the shady areas, and not many like flowery type things unless they were in pots that my mom could water pretty easily. So I do use a lot of hostas in this build to kind of put a little replicate or montage towards that. We actually did have this brick patio out on the side of our house, same color, like this red color with that fence right there. The house actually came with a in-ground pool, right actually off that right past that fence, right off that brick patio. I did not replicate that, mostly because this lot, like I said, was a lot smaller than our yard was, but I think it worked out. So I got to tell you this story. There's the basketball hoop that I'm putting onto our garage here, and we actually did have a basketball hoop, and it attached to the garage. And basically, this garage was like I said, this is an old house, so they had like a barn door right above like that, and we put that basketball hoop for us to play basketball. And at the time, my boyfriend came over, and he's 6'1", 6'2", loves basketball, decides to go and jump up on the rim of this very old basketball hoop, and he ends up breaking it and pulling down a chunk of the basketball hoop. He's now my husband, and my dad did end up having to forgive him for it, but it was funny because my brother was the only one to witness it, and yeah, that was a really good story. And so that broken piece of the basketball is actually still up on the house, and it's missing a chunk. But we will never forget the time that my husband, or then boyfriend, came and broke my dad's basketball hoop, and the travesty that it was at that time. Okay, so inside the house here, this is the only area that's kind of similar to our house. Actually, a little bit more, but this first room right here to the left, I am making it as the living room. In our house, it used to be the kids' toy room when we were younger, and then as we got older, my mom turned it into more of a parlor situation, which is just a fancy term for like a table and a place to like play card games and things like that. So I kind of went for a combination of like keeping the house to its original old Victorian like molding on the ceiling and on the ground, because that's actually what our house had. And then also kind of taking the furniture and trying to keep it like, I didn't want it to be all Victorian, just because I think I wasn't trying to like make it sit in that time period. So I do tie together some vintage stuff and some modernish stuff to kind of create the space in the home for the Sims. They're the Simmer family. This home is really ideal for a large family. I was thinking of my own family when I put this together. So if you love the Legacy Challenge or the Generation Challenge, this house is really good for that. Lots of space, lots of great ideas, especially with the butler living in the home, and just kind of entertainment type of thing. So yeah, in here I went with kind of some bold yellow and blue colors and tones. In the rest of the house, you'll kind of see me kind of pick a theme based upon some of the wallpaper and different things like that. So I do start trying to partition some of the rooms here to see where we kind of land in terms of what we need. And right here, I just put the door on what's going to be the half bath. I do make it a little bit bigger to fit in a sink. Right over there on the left right there, that will be our butler's space, and you know, the kitchen gets changed a lot, so I won't quite talk about that yet. But I do, since this is the front door, I do make a little entrance area right here with some shoes and a bench, coat rack, umbrella stand, just a really nice area right off the living room to welcome guests with big open space and a place to drop shoes and different things like that. Especially if your family is really big, you would probably have way more shoes than that underneath the bench, but I kind of thought that maybe that might be a little excessive, so I keep it pretty simple underneath there. Over here to the right of the living room, I first actually changed the wallpaper, but over to the right here is going to be the kids' play space. This actually was our living room in our real house, so I just kind of flip-flopped the living room and the kids' playroom, to just because I wanted a big living room space. I kind of do regret. I kind of wish I could go back and flip it back around and make the bigger space the kids' space, but I think it worked out pretty well in the end. So I went upstairs to kind of get the layout and see how many bedrooms I would end up with. It is kind of similar to what my house had, and I can talk about that and when we go upstairs and what's similar and what's different. But for now, I'm like trying to rework the kitchen here, because initially I had it like here. I'm trying to make it a bathroom for the butler, but then I realized I wasn't sure how I wanted my kitchen until I realized, oh, my neighbor had this really cool thing. We would go and play at my neighbor's house all the time. They had 6 girls in their family, and in my family there were 3 girls and 3 boys. And there was girls that were very similar to myself and my younger sister's age, so we would run back and forth between the houses all the time. And in their house, they had this really cool feature where their kitchen connected to their dining space with like an alleyway. What that was basically to kind of create a feeling for their guests, like back in the olden days, where the guests wouldn't be able to see directly into the kitchen and the loudness of it. So they would create this like little pathway that would have kind of like a bar, and like shelving things and places to have like storage and serving trays, if that makes sense, to kind of create like a sound buffer and keep the servants that are in the kitchen private from the servants that would be like serving to the guests themselves. So and you'll get to see that in a little bit, and I'm excited for that. Here is the play space. Because of the large family, I thought that this family might have 2 toddlers, 2 kids, and a teenager. You can definitely play around with that, change it however you want. You could have all kids, all toddlers, a couple of each, whatever you thought. But for the toys' sake, I envision having some toddler stuff and some kid stuff down below. I did include some desks for homework and like journals, and then having like kind of more community toys downstairs. So like that giant tent where multiple kids can play in and things like that. In here is what we would call the den, in the back, like for the old Victorian houses. This actually was the den in our house. It did not connect in the same way that it connects here, but we used it as like our computer space and our office space. My mom worked from home, and then like all 6 of us shared the same computer in that room. I did turn that space into the office space, but also like the music room. I thought maybe in the mixology globe there that you can use for like creating different types of drinks. So lots of skill building items here. Here is where I start putting the kitchen together, and I realize that I don't want to create this very like basic kitchen right into the dining room, especially since I did kind of want to stick with the theme of how old Victorian houses are made. Technically, this space is what my parents did add on later on once they needed a bigger kitchen. They added it on when they had the time and the money and the resources to be able to add it on. So here I am, though, trying to kind of create a more realistic version of what I thought like a old Victorian house kitchen would have. I do create a bathroom, like the butler ends up with a nice bathroom, and the half bath ends up kind of wonky, and you'll kind of see what I mean by that in a moment. But the butler's room has this basically like a jut out piece to it that is from the half bath. And the reason I have that is not only so that the sink can work, but also in old Victorian homes, there would, like, especially the servants' quarters and like downstairs bathrooms for servants, usually had a little bit kind of some quirks and odd ends to it. I think I really use the space though, like really uniquely, and so I'm excited for that piece of it as well. But here you go. I finally figured out how I wanted my kitchen. So it's actually in the very center of the house, which is kind of common as well in Victorian houses. It would heat the houses better, with like being the stove and the fireplace in the middle. And so I actually get rid of one of those stoves. I don't keep them both. I just keep the one. And I put all the kitchen utensils and things in this space. And the space that's right off of it, the alleyway space, it has a door connecting to it. So that's the sound barrier that we talked about, where you wouldn't hear the kitchen staff. And then from the alleyway, like serving area, we just have an archway to the dining space, because they would have trays loaded with food and they wouldn't be able to like push open doors and things like that. So they would have like that open space where the servants could easily walk out. So they would keep this alleyway very, very cleaned, and would have serving trays in here, like ready to go out into the dining space with the guests. I end up using a lot of cottage living and and cool kitchen. No, not cool kitchen. Country kitchen kit, in terms of like the decorations, because that a lot of those decorations work really well. I do love like all the little clutter items that come with those kits, and I know that there's a new kit coming out, actually a couple new kits coming out, and people are kind of like, please just like move on and fix our game. And I would really love all of those things too. Weirdly enough, I am excited for the kits. I don't really like the Create a Sim kits, but that's only because I focus more on building and playing. So I would really love more gameplay kits like Bust the Dust. But kind of a little different opinion than a lot of simmers is that I don't mind the kits as long as they don't take away from the new expansion packs and game packs. So if we don't get another one this like fall, like which is typical for their schedule, then I will be kind of upset, because that means the kits kind of took away from that. But I'm holding out hope, especially with the last two games that came out, Cottage Living and Interior Design. I think, in my opinion, that those were the best game packs of The Sims 4 that have come out for a while. Eco Lifestyle, I would say, would be the next one as well that I really love. So, I guess I'm intrigued on what the new kits are going to be. One of them is called Modern Sanctuary, which some people speculate has to do with like a bathroom kit with like modern items, which definitely would be a nice thing. But I think Modern Sanctuary could mean a lot of different things, because people's sanctuaries are like very different. So some people see that as a bathroom and others see that as maybe something else. So we'll have to wait and see what that kit entails. I really do wish, I love that the new kits that came out have a lot more diversity in terms of like representing people. I 100% agree with a lot of other EA game changer sim YouTubers that talk about how you shouldn't have to pay to see yourself in a video game. It should have been a base game, and I totally agree with that. But it is nice that EA noticed their lack of cultural awareness, and since this is a very American thing, like Cottage Living, a lot of European countries were really excited because that was more realistic to the homes that they see in their country. So I did enjoy seeing like the Create a Sim having better like clothing options and different things like that. I do wish we would get a world expansion pack like in The Sims 3 had, where you could travel to different places like France and China. that one was a lot of fun and had so many like gameplay options. And since Sims 4 we know lacks a lot of gameplay options, that would have been such an easy way to add that diversity without making people pay to have that. So yeah, I'm kind of hit and miss with the kits. I do like Bust the Dust, and I do like the country kitchen kit, and yeah. So I guess we'll have to see if the next one though. I do not like the Create a Sim ones, paying for representation, but I am looking forward to what the Modern Sanctuary one might be. Anyways, we are going into the butler's space here. This is his bathroom or her bathroom. I kind of went with that pink vibe that matches the cottage living wallpaper really nicely, and create like just a smaller bath, since it would just be for one person. It didn't need to be an exaggerant bathroom, and I do change the tile to better match it as well. I do kind of make all the bathrooms look very similar. So I do actually cut the feed for one of the bathrooms upstairs, since I don't feel like we needed to watch me make three full baths and a fourth half bath. So I do show you the half bath here because it's really quick, and it kind of juts out into the butler's room right here next door once I realize, oh, my sink needs to get in here a little bit better. So yeah, a little quirky, but definitely like something I've seen. And in fact, at my neighbor's house, they just had a toilet in a room like this, and then the sink was actually out in the hallway. And I was going to do that, but I just felt like for Sim's sake, like maybe that wouldn't be the best idea. So yeah, came up with a different way of doing it. What I do with using that little space is I put a dresser as like a headboard for the bed to hold like a Kleenex box and a plant. And not only that, but it has like a dual purpose then, because I make it pop out on the other side of the wall into the bathroom, and it looks like there are built-in drawers, which is actually very, very common in Victorian houses. We had a whole like pantry upstairs in our house where there were just tons of cabinets and drawers for, I'm assuming, linens and things, but honestly I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of what we used it for, was like different linens and medicines and things. So yeah, I have his dresser or her dresser filled with some like body care things. I figured they might have to use lotion a lot more since they're doing a lot of dirty work and different fragrances. And then we head upstairs here. So this bedroom is the way it's created is similar to what my parents' bedroom was. They did end up having a bathroom off the side of their bedroom, but I did not do that for this build. I don't make it look like their bedroom or anything like that, but just like the layout is very similar, with the windows being like diagonal like that. Yeah. I have never used this bed before. I never thought I would use this bed, but I think I can make this work with the theme that we have in this build. I was like, okay, this is like a crazy design and things. It's only going to work in a very specific build, and I think I pulled it off. So I was kind of excited to see that bed finally being used in something. Next, this is the bedroom that's right off the stairs, and you come up, and it actually has a door leading out to a porch, and we actually had a bedroom just like that. We did not use it as a bedroom in our house. It actually ended up being my dad's workspace when we were older. So when we were kids, it was used as the nursery. There were 6 of us kids, and so there was always somebody in a crib. So the little babies would be in that room while the older kids were in the other 2 rooms. So yeah, that door actually did lead out to the porch and everything, which was, I don't know, I'm kind of wondering like what they actually used that room for, like if it was a bedroom and why it was so much smaller than the other ones. But I turned it into a very like dainty or like very soft room for probably I thought of a teenager. So I have like a laptop in there and a yoga space on the porch. I even have like the nail thing from the spa expansion pack. So I kind of thought it was a girl that really focused on wellness and control of the mind and the body, and just relaxation. So I thought that was a good teenage room with that porch space. Next, I head off into our first kids' room, and this room is similar to my brother's room in some ways. All of our rooms actually had walk-in closets, so I did not do that in the Sims build here. I just made them bedrooms and bathrooms. In fact, there were 6 of us kids, and we all had to share one bathroom. 6 kids, one bathroom. Let me tell you, we had a schedule down to a T. 3 of us would shower at night, and 3 of us would shower in the morning. And the older you were, the first pick you had. So all the older kids kind of chose to shower in the morning, and all of us younger kids, like the 3 younger kids, would shower at nighttime, to make sure that we all had an opportunity to be in the shower. We also had to be very mindful of how long we stayed in the shower, because we didn't want to run out of hot water. We did have quite a lot of hot water, but you definitely, like, if somebody would take a long shower, you would want to wait a little bit longer. So my parents were pretty good at making sure that we were good about that. So this is like the boys' room. That's what we called it. There are 3 brothers would sleep in here. I make it with 2 bedrooms or 2 beds. It can definitely not be a kid's room. I thought it would be a kid's room though. So maybe twin boys or something like that, or just 2 boys. One of the boys really into pets, so I put some of those pet posters on the wall, and then the other one into more like construction or police type of things. And yeah, so that's how I decorate that. In the bathroom, you might have noticed I shrunk down the robes. I thought, genius idea, especially for kids. Like, kids in robes are so cute. So I shrunk them down to be more like kid size, and I thought it looked like really good. Kind of proud of that moment right there. Our last bedroom here is our toddler room. So if you don't have 2 toddlers, obviously we can swap things out or put in a crib if you have a kid, but maybe more twins, or maybe just really close in age. In fact, my mom had 6 of us kids in 8 years. So the oldest one was 8 when my youngest sister was born. My mom, that means like my mom, let's see, she was like pregnant nonstop. The closest age gap was actually between my brother and I. We are, what was it? His birthday is June 19, July, August, September. We are 15 months apart. So that is like the closest age, like, between siblings, 15 months. And then the longest age gap is actually between me and my younger sister. So I'm kind of like that middle person. So that my younger sister and I are just over 2 years apart. Let's see. I'm doing math in my head here. So much fun. October, November. We are 26 months apart. So just 2 years and 2 months apart from each other. We all actually ended up being 2 grade levels apart from each other, just because of how our birthdays fell. So my mom would have somebody, like, she would have a 2nd grader, a 4th grader, a 6th grader, and 8th grader. And then like the next year she would have like all odd numbers for all of her kids. And that's kind of how it worked out for our schooling. It was nice because we did go to a private school where they would have combined class age groups. And so I don't think any of us ended up having to be in the same classroom together until maybe the older grades, which was nice because that meant we kind of had our own friends and own classrooms and things. So yeah, 2 years apart for schooling kind of worked out pretty well. I do come back outside to kind of finish up the space out here. This porch here actually existed on our house as well. The grill sat right there. The 2 chairs actually sat right there in the corner, right off our kitchen. And we even had a red picnic table on there. We ate lots and lots of meals on that red picnic table. In the summers. In fact, we would stand along that railing right there, and we would shoot watermelon seeds and see who could shoot them the farthest off the porch and see how far we could get them. We would even try to shoot them into the garage gutters that were right there. And yeah, so that lots of fun things that we did there as well. I do end up adding lots of good lights because lights are so important in making your home look welcoming and bright at nighttime. I get a fence, a gate here along the fence so that you can walk from the front to the back without going over the porch. Exactly like my house had, including those hostas that are there with the pretty flowers. Yeah, so I ended up copying a lot more than like I thought I would be able to. But I think it turned out great, and I'm really proud of this build. Thank you so much for like sticking around. I know it was a little longer video, but I think it was worth it, and you got to hear a little bit about me and my childhood at least. And yeah, thanks so much for all the time that you've spent here. I don't actually go back into the garage and fix it all up at all. I like to leave that space open for your skill building. So I think I mentioned that though. So, go ahead and go back into it and figure out how you want to do it. I just spend some time out here getting some kid features, some gardening boxes and a fireplace. Some bird feeders and fountains around the place, and just kind of put in some last minute touches here. So I want to thank you so much for those who watch my videos. Comment below how you think I did in terms of replicating my house. Take a look at the screenshots to see it. And I hope you really enjoyed this video and hearing a little bit about my life. Well, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.